All right, so what I've done, guys, is I've taken a bunch of our really dry standing balsam spruce that we have out here. A little bit of both, lots of dry, dead standing. I've cut some up. I've got a couple pieces here in the fire pit. Upwards, I've got some really small pieces on the bottom with some burnt wood from the last fire, which will take. I have some heavier bark inside. I've got some newer bark here, thinner bark. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my ferro rod to get this going, and then I'll just slowly pile this stuff up on here like so once it gets going. In fact, what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to throw one more piece across the back here and build it up. I'll use one of these big spruce here, and we're gonna put this here, and then I'll pile my wood up across the top here to get started. So I have my Coghlan ferro rod, which is one of my go-tos that I carry all the time. I have a neck knife, a small buck knife. I carry a pocket knife with me as well. So I have this small buck knife here that I carry along with the Coghlan ferro rod, and of course my whistle and a light that I never go without. I take them with me all over. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a piece of this other bark going. We'll use the ferro rod here, and then we'll use this stuff to get this lit up. I'm going to throw a few of these across here so that when it gets started, and I'll throw some of the thinner ones across. I'll throw some of the thinner ones across the top this way once it gets going. Well, let me just put some of these across here. Some of these here. Okay. And like I say, I'll get the ferro rod lit. Or I'll get the bark lit with the ferro rod. Okay, so what we're going to do is we want to scrape some of the finer bark into a pile. Okay, so that the spark from the ferro rod will take. At the same time, when you are striking the ferro rod, some people will pull the ferro rod away. I generally sit the ferro rod here and I'll try to strike it this way. And we'll just take a couple pieces here. We'll save whatever we don't need for either the fire in the tent. All right, so let's see if we can get this little bit lit here. So we're just going to scrape a few pieces off. And there we go. See if we can't get that heavier bark in there lit. Okay, and you got the fire going. And again, this is a thin piece. I'm going to save that. I'm going to save these guys. All right. See if you can't get the fire going in here. This wood is very dry, so it should take fairly quickly. Let's keep feeding some of the little small pieces in here. So again, that's the method I use, just like Lars and all the others that do in all their videos. Most of the outdoors guys learn to use a ferro rod. You just scrape some up. You can use balsam sap too, which is just like gasoline to get the fire going if need be. And there's a lot of heat there already from that. And again, the key is not to lose these. Be careful where you put them down. You know, you put them away generally right away. Obviously, when I got the fire started, I also have a can opener here, a GI can opener. Add more bark. And I'll tuck this just back in my shirt. So I'm gonna get the fire going. Here, get some coals. I'm gonna run down and grab another load for up here since we're spending the night. All right, gonna head down for another load on the snow machine. All right, so it's 12:30. I just went and got the second load from down at the truck. My extra jacket, a few other things. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna split up a little bit of wood. I cleaned out the ashes. I cleaned out the ashes in the stove in the tent. So clean all the ashes out. Get a fresh start in there, a little more room for wood. And then I'm going to go start the fire in there and just warm it up a little bit. And I think the game plan is maybe I'm going to run up to the SOTA site, grab one radio and an antenna, and maybe head up to the SOTA site and see if we can't make some contacts today. I'll try voice first, maybe, on sideband. I'm going to be only 5 watts out, but see what we can do maybe on sideband. So I'm going to split up a little bit of wood here, for in there, and get the stove going in there. I'll bring you guys along once I get the stove going. All right, so as I said, I cleaned out all the ashes out of the stove. Let's get this guy going here. So same scenario, we're gonna throw some bark inside. Some of this thicker stuff, we're gonna throw it inside. I'm gonna put a few pieces down and across. I've already cut this stuff up nice and small inside the fire shelter. This is the stuff that we'll put across. I get things built up in here. So some of this stuff is pretty small, pretty thin. Let's just see here. I want this stuff to catch across. All right, that's just not a good spot there. All right. There we go. So we're going to use some of this stuff. So same scenario here. This stuff is extremely dry. We're going to throw, can we put in the bottom here? Let's throw a few of these just in the bottom. Get it off the metal. I do have a grate in here as well. Okay, a little bit there. Put some bark in here. Lots of bark on the trails as you come in here. There's no shortage of bark. Okay, and these little ones, I'm going to lay them across inside to get things moving. Throw the odd one inside as well. And then what we're going to do is we'll use our ferro rod again. And then these are just going to lay across the top here. So what I want to do is I want to go get a bunch more of this stuff, or cut a bunch more up this afternoon for tonight. It's extremely fast burning wood, but lots of heat. So if it gets really cold and we need that little extra heat in here, then at least I've got the heat. I think, as I said before to you guys in a video, that if you expect to, especially a stove like this, I mean, this is the Packer stove, Nyko Packer, but if you expect to stay warm all night and get 2 hours worth of burning out of it, give your head a shake, because it's not going to happen. Maybe with a G stove or something a little larger, but even then I'm not 100% sure. A lot of it is going to be based on your wood as well. So let's just take a piece of this here. Cut a piece of this off here so we can light it. So let's scrape some of this stuff. This feels a little wet. I think it was here on the floor inside. All right. So let's see if we can't do this here once again. My Coghlan ferro rod. Scrape a little bit off. Oops, I went too far, as I was saying earlier. Sometimes, there we go. you guys over here. See what's going to take place. I have the damper open in the back. So that should take. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut up a couple more pieces to put across the top here, and I'm going to catch up with you guys here once we get ripping here.